Hello, everyone. My name is Allison Heaney, Vice President of Learning and Public Programs, and I want to welcome you today, Wednesday, April 24th, 2024, to this edition of the MOLAA Zoom project, in conversation with the artist Betsabee Romero and MOLAA Chief Curator Gabriela Urtiaga. In this very special chapter, we are joined by Mexican artist Betsabee Romero during the launch of The Endless Spiral, a comprehensive exhibition and research project MOLAA is proud to present as part of the official collateral events of the 60th International Art Exhibition at the Venice Biennial, Italy. MOLAA would like to acknowledge the support of the Miller Foundation, the Dwight Stewart Youth Fund, and the Arts Council for Long Beach for their constant support of the educational initiatives at the Museum of Latin American Art. And a special thanks to the California Arts Council Arts Exposure Grant and our main partners for the Venice exhibition, William and Michelle Chicharelli-Lerch and Santiago Garcia Galvan. With more than 100 individual exhibitions on 5 continents, including those at the British Museum, the Grand Palace, York Avenue in Washington, and the Mexican Pavilion at Expo Dubai 2020, and many more, Romero's work expresses issues of migration, traditions, and collective memory through the reimagination of symbols and daily rituals of the global consumer culture. As curator Gabriela Urtiaga suggests, Romero's work presents a powerful narrative about the experiences of being a foreigner, and one that presents the perspective of many who lack territory to seek refuge and survive. As we begin this presentation, please note that the following interview was pre-recorded in the upstairs gallery at the Foundation Bellacqua de la Masa under the premise of exploring the theme Foreigners Everywhere, the title of the 60th International Art Exhibition and Venice. It has a runtime of approximately 26 minutes, and the conversation is in Spanish. However, if you prefer to listen in English, please click on the option below for English translation with Gabriela Moya, who will be standing by. We're very happy to have you all here, and we hope you enjoy.
Dear Betsabee, what a joy to be able to take this time to enjoy and reflect about this great work that you're presenting within the frame of the biennial in Venice as a collateral event. And it's wonderful that we are able to share this with the audience. I was wondering if you could introduce us to your start as an artist and tell us about your reflections and what was it that made you create this body of work that is so wonderful and diverse and so deep as well that we can see today in Venice? Well, thank you, Gabby. And like you say, it's really wonderful to be able to share this moment here in Venice within this very important exhibit after having worked in such an easy flow of work. In terms of the beginning, since I was a girl, I was very close to art. Luckily, I had the privilege of having this education where I realized very quickly that rather than learn data of history and heroes, I preferred novels or symphonies that would make me feel different things and that would make me understand pieces of reality. And with the possibility that in my family there were so many women, my dad had to be a feminist because he had no choice. And they always pushed me to do what it is that I felt I wanted to do. So more than, having drawing classes or me having any kind of special ability, I was interested in philosophy and literature. I watched a lot of films. I loved going to museums, which was something that my family also enjoyed very much. So I think that's what it's all about. When you go into this world in which learning and giving back the knowledge has to do with the means that the artistic language gives us. And I think that's what made me come close to it. Well, we're in the Bevilacqua La Masa Foundation, where you are presenting The Endless Spiral, this wonderful project that, in a way, I think works as a decalogue of your body of work. So I'd like you to share with us what this exhibit means for you within the framework of the Venice Biennial in your career, and how it is that you're living this present. And later on, we can dialogue about the different presentations that we're creating here. Well, within this body of work and this script that we've created, there is a group of topics that I've been working with for more than 20 years, but also there are different ways of addressing the space and the materials with which I've been creating a discourse about the topics that are most important for me. I think it's very important in our practice, or at least for me personally, not to jump from one topic to another because it's in vogue or because it's in the headlines. I think that migration, for example, that's a subject that I've been concerned with, given that I live in a country that borders with the United States and with the borders that are crossed the most in the world, the border with California. And after I participated in the first biennial in 97, right there between Tijuana and San Diego, that's the place there, that's the point where millions of people cross every day. And that was where I became aware of the importance of looking for other audiences, of coming close to the communities and doing things in public spaces, and also of addressing the objects that are intervened within themselves and that allows a real recycling, like recycling the garbage that is generated by the Western culture, but also a symbolic recycling using elements or instruments that have a function, a specific function, like speed or mobility, that only wants to move forward fast and in my case, like using tires as an object, my idea is to leave a footprint, to recover the memory, to talk about the past and about the traditions that have been run over actually by the Western culture. So in this case, in this exhibit, there are tires, but there are also different shoes lasts that were abandoned in a factory, an old factory of sneakers that went out of business more than 50 years ago. I also have work with feathers, making a reference to this other ancient material that is still part of cultures that survive until this day, and so on. There are mirrors as well, that in this case I think it's really interesting that the canals in Venice have these safety mirrors, right? Because they can be really narrow and the gondoliers need to make sure they can see where they're going, and it's something that has a local reference. At the same time, all the industry of leather and shoes and fashion and design, to which these lasts of the shoes refer to as well, and I've seen them and photographed them as well. You know, one of the most wonderful things that I think people will see in this exhibit is the different layers of information and of history that they can find in your work. And I was thinking that it's a very good dialogue in your work within the general topic of the work, which is about foreigners everywhere. Adriano Pedrosa is the curator. He's the first Latin American curator that today is the artistic director of the biennial. And that it was a natural dialogue with the general topic and the deep topics that we see within your work. So you're a wonderful artist that's connected with your with your own time and with the concerning topics as well. And but we find in your work also a message of hope and a message of reflection, a message of many questions that I think everybody that will visit the exhibit and that look at the exhibit here in Venice will find. They will find lots of questions, and maybe you will tell us if there are answers or what is that dynamic that you want to create within your work and the public that is so international as well. I think that more than ever, these problems that used to be local narratives in the past, now we've noticed that they are all intertwined and they have a global sense as well. This question of borders that divide us and separate us and classify us, they cut us, they cut through us, through our footprint, our bodies, even sometimes, and through families. That's a topic that I have been working on, because every time there's more and more problems and they don't get solved, and there are other kinds of aspects to it. And also in terms of the biennials topic, the foreign, what is foreign, what's alien, what's outside, what is accepted, what's not accepted, what is an insider or an outsider. And I think that that topic of barrier, of separation, of polarization within the discussion of identity, those are all factors that are determined by a way of dividing the world that goes all the way from the very geopolitical to the most intimate areas. And for me, it was very interesting for the first time to have within just one same place to explore different perspectives of these divisions, of these being an alien in your own home, or of being an alien or a foreigner within your own body or in your own country, and being a foreigner in your own family or your own home. Well, yes, because we've been sharing that the exhibit that you're creating and presenting here is divided in 6 halls, 6 installations where you create tension between these things you're talking about, these private individual stories and also the collective memory. How do you create that dialogue during at the creative moment, in the moment that you decided to expose all these ideas starting from your work? Right now we're in one of the main halls, which is fractured footprints. How do you create that concept? I think there are different lines of work, different lines of research that are simultaneous and that are complementary. On one hand, you have this thing that cuts us, divides us. I see the data and they break me. And on the other hand, I feel like it really matters to me to dignify, to honor, and to give, to make visible certain memories and certain cultural resistance that exist and that give meaning to a lot of my work, and that give hope as well, because they are a way and of accessing other answers to the planet, other answers for humanity. I think, Betsabeé, that like you say, you work a lot with the topic of identity and mixing and representation. And today, where it's really important how you see and identify yourself, but it's also important to exit and leave those categories that sometimes have us locked in. What is your reflection about that? And we, as we see this exhibit, we can realize that. But what is the message that you would like to share in a context of so many discussions nowadays, so many contemporary discussions where that is present in your work? I focused a lot in the lines that divide, in these artificial lines that are lit from the outside that divide us up without us having decided to allow them an entry. Those are lines that are imposed. Borders are like a weapon, like a cutting, sharp weapon that is installed in the geography, but also in the mirror or in the home itself. So, those lines, since they are artificial, I like to reflect on them as such. What if we remove them? What if they weren't there? What if one day we think about ourselves without them? Everything is powerful until it stops being powerful, until the light goes out, until it's no longer visible. So it's this thought that happens and goes through in a different way. It's given by culture, by art. And I think that making it visible that culture and tradition have left a footprint and they have surpassed humanity and history, that's the part that interests me the most, because I think it has to do with the artistic discourse. Yes, and in your work, that philosophical aspect is very present, that political and reflexive aspect. Those are the topics that interest you, and it is also present because of your choice of the elements that you use for your creation. So can you tell us a little about that practice that takes you to choosing an element and a material and leaving another one behind? I'm interested, I've mentioned, I'm interested in taking materials that are recycled symbolically, and also in an ecological green way, because I think right now it's the moment of recycling. Why not? But I'm interested as well in the work, in the slow artisanal work of rustic materials, of low-tech materials. For example, there's the little house of shadows, where or the lace with that have an image, but they project a different image in the shadows, or in the shadows of their little home. What you see printed in the house, you don't see it in the shade, in the shadows they project on the walls. So the public sometimes is surprised, and that surprise is a great gift for me, because I think that everybody, we all think that we can only be surprised by AI or technology, but when there is something that's so low tech that still surprises us, and that we don't understand how it works, that's wonderful for me to be able to be surprised by something simple. And I'm also interested in the artisanal work and the artisanal hands, because art is also a work of resisting speed. And speed is a category that I explore in different ways in deep questioning. I think that it has an exaggerated value in our culture, and it's been questioned in many ways, since it's been questioned in cooking as something that we need to do calmly and in a reflective way, and we're not going to change reality. My thought is not messianic at all. I don't think art has that power, that potential, but we can create reflection in the long term to a deeper level than what we can do with the media or the social networks or social media. Yes, I think that art, and essentially your work as well, is that it doesn't need a lot of explanation. People have the possibility of find themselves within your work, and of course to have that aesthetic experience, but also automatically they can discover certain lines, certain reflections that you work in detail and with so much dedication. And I think that's very deep. That's something that makes your work unique. One of the things that we see as we go through each of the halls is how you created these moments of pause in each of these halls, with all the work that we did together of finding that moment of reflecting. For example, in the first hall, where we have the families that are cut through by the borders, then in the next one with the mirrors, with this idea of duplication, of reflection, of how we see each other, how we see ourselves, and how other people sees us, all the way to the last hall where we have this idea of dawning and of this endless spiral. So how did you feel that? How are you feeling that right now? Those moments that you were capturing in the different halls to be able to reach these reflections that you've been working on for such a long time? Well, for many different reasons, I wanted each installation to be modular, and that each was only one technique and one material. And I wanted each to have that first impact when you first arrive, but also to have it be the cover of a book that catches your eye, that you want to explore and read and go in deep. So that's what I wanted. I'd like people to figure out that it does allow the reading in many different layers, that it's not just about the light of the mirrors and that they're broken and there are different light types of light behind it, but also that there's poetry over there. We have that fabric, like the ones you see, the ancient fabrics you used to see in your grandparents' houses, right? And it's this image that can be deformed where you can see yourself, but they are also eyes that can see you. So like you said, it's an eye, but we see ourselves. It's your own reflection. It's a mirror. So I think that within each of them, something similar happens, where you can not just see the line of the border from the outside with that red neon light, but also that you can go close and look at what those feet are made up of and see that each of them have, the toes with their wounds, and that the land and the dirt is there, and people have been engraved by their own traditions, that there is other kind of data written around as well. So each part has other elements through which you can stay there and go beyond just, a glance. I think that actually the exhibit needs time. There's a first approach to your work, like with all of your work. There's a first approach of a first impact, but yes, this is a work that requires time because of that idea of all your knowledge, of all your experience, of wanting to share these reflections, and of wanting to open a dialogue and a discussion about the topics that include us all, thinking about the present where we're all living, but also with the clear commitment that you have of thinking of ourselves in the future and in the long term. And also paying tribute to the past. I think that you, as a great artist, can handle those three spaces and those three times as an infinite time that we can enjoy when we come in contact with your work. Well, I hope so. This dimension of time is important because, of course, I'm interested in having an open discourse. I don't want them to be closed in space or time. I'm interested in the discussion that they generate, that it opens hope as well. I'm not interested in the messianic aspect because I don't think I'm going to change anything. I'm not interested in the apocalyptic aspect either because I don't want the news of everybody died. I think I come from a culture that has lines of hope, and I am lucky enough to having grown up within those same lines, and the ability of celebrating. That's something that in our cultures it has a great meaning. And I honor that, and I love honoring that in many different ways. You are celebrating this moment in your career with the Biennial of Venice. I would like you to share what it means to you to be here today. I love to hear what you say and to keep on thinking about the Latin American identity, but being a world-renowned artist, that yes, you grew up in Mexico and have shows all over the world. You do produce and reflect and create from Mexico to the world. So what is it that differentiates you and that you carry with such pleasure and pride into the world, being such a great international artist that lives and produces in Mexico City? Well, I haven't had that goal within itself. I think I am lucky enough that opportunities have opened up in different places to work these topics that have been explored from very many different perspectives. And also, thanks to that, different institutions, education institutions, and humanitarian institutions like UNESCO, suddenly it's not just museums or the art market, but also within other instances, I've had opportunities also in the public spaces. And this is a great international forum of legitimization of the established, of contemporary art. And I celebrate that because it's not really the space in general where I've done my work or where I've had recognition. This has been very difficult, and in the end, it's something that I thought was going to be very complicated to access. So I am very happy, and I celebrate that this was a work that had a lot of effort and research also on your part. Thank you so much for making it possible for me to be here. Well, it's a great pleasure for me to have you here, and I love listening to all the people that visit about their questions, and I'd love to hear about the experience that they'll have in these 6 months. And I hope that everybody that can come to Venice, they'll be able to enjoy this. But once the biennial is finished, we will show the exhibit as well in Los Angeles in the Museum of Latin American Art. And we hope that we can make it go all over the world. Why not? Well, that would be wonderful. It would be wonderful to have this roll around with my work now that I've been working with mobility. And like I said, within itself, it's proof that culture and art can cross borders that we can't even imagine. Thank you so much, Betsabee. Thank you, Gabi. Thank you, MOLAA.
Thank you so much. On behalf of everyone at MOLAA, I want to thank you for joining us this afternoon for this incredible presentation on the endless spiral, now on view in Venice, Italy for the 60th biennial. We're so excited to have you here. Thank you to Gabriela Moya for English translation of the interview. If you have any questions, you can email us info@molaa.org. This presentation will be uploaded to YouTube in the coming weeks, so you can watch it again in its entirety. Thank you so much, and we'll see you again next month.